Okay, this week's blog, the goal was too heavy. Let's get into it. I became more interested in building a life that made my heart sing. There's a particular kind of sabotage that does not look like sabotage at all. It looks like ambition. It looks like writing the goal down every morning, visualizing the outcome, checking the numbers, and doing everything you've been told successful people do. It looks disciplined and focused from the outside. Sometimes it even feels that way from within. But beneath all the productive energy can sit something far less useful: attachment. The belief that the goal needs to happen soon, the growing frustration that it has not happened yet, the temptation to measure every day by whether you are closer to it, the sense that perhaps once you achieve it, something inside you will finally settle. For a long time, I did not recognize this as self-sabotage. I thought sabotage was obvious: procrastination, giving up, avoiding the work, making excuses. It can also look like trying far too hard to control an outcome. When I first started my online business, I had a goal to make $50,000 in 30 days. It was a significant milestone for me at the time, and I treated it accordingly. I put myself in environments with people who had already achieved it. I listened to their advice. I studied how they thought, how they worked, and how they led. I wrote down every day as part of my visualization practice, and for a time, I held it clearly in front of me. Then it did not happen when I thought it should. So eventually I let it go. I almost felt like I gave up on it. I did not quit the business nor decide the goal no longer mattered. I simply stopped carrying it around with me. I stopped asking every day to prove that it was getting closer. I stopped giving the milestone so much power over how I felt about the work I was doing. I moved on. The focus shifted towards other things: experiences I wanted to create with my boys, memories I wanted us to have, the kind of life I wanted our ordinary days to feel like. I became less interested in chasing a number and more interested in building a life that made my heart sing. And then I made $50,000 in 30 days. By the time it happened, I was no longer chasing it. The business continued to produce high profit months, and later I received one of the top income awards in my field. Outcomes I once attached so much meaning to began arriving with far less emotional force behind them. This is where conversations about goals can become overly simplistic. I do not believe I achieved those things because I stopped caring, nor do I believe I can simply visualize a life, release it into the universe, and wait for it to arrive. I still worked. I still showed up. I still made decisions, had conversations, learned from people ahead of me, and took the daily actions required to grow a business. Letting go of the outcome did not mean letting go of the daily habits. It meant I stopped asking the work to reassure me. There's a difference. The goal was never the problem. A close friend once asked me what was stopping me from simply going for it, from reaching out and taking what I knew I deserved. In this case, the 50,000 in 30 days milestone and the trophy that represented it. I did not know how to answer. At the time, I probably assumed I needed to work harder, become more disciplined, or find some missing secret sauce. That is usually where high-performing women look first. We are accustomed to solving problems through effort. If something is not working, we add more focus, hours, learning, more pressure. We rarely consider that the very intensity we are bringing to the outcome may be part of what's getting in our way. In hindsight, I did not need to take the milestone. I needed to become less dependent on it. Once I stopped needing the goal to validate the direction I was heading, I had more emotional space to do the things that actually mattered. I could focus on the people in front of me. I could make better decisions. I could keep building without turning every result into a verdict on whether I was succeeding. The goal became lighter, and it resulted in more productive work. Perhaps that is what my friend could see before I could. I already knew what to do. The obstacle was not a lack of capability. It was the emotional weight I had placed on the outcome. The kind of self-sabotage is subtle. This kind of self-sabotage is subtle because it hides inside our strengths. Ambitious people know how to work. Responsible women know how to carry things. Mothers know how to keep going when they are tired. Professionals know how to perform under pressure. These qualities can build extraordinary lives. They can also make us believe that every desired outcome should respond to more effort. Sometimes the next step is not to push harder. Stop standing over the life you are building, demanding to know when it will be ready. Attachment changes the way we work. The more desperately we need something to happen, the harder it becomes to meet the process with clarity. We become impatient with the timeline. We interpret ordinary daily delays as failure. We make decisions from urgency instead of discernment. We compare our progress with people whose lives, resources, and starting points we do not fully understand. Most importantly, we stop living where we are. The present becomes a waiting room for the future. This is where ambition begins to erode emotional wealth. Emotional wealth to me is not the absence of ambition. It is the ability to build a meaningful external life without bankrupting your inner one in the process. I absolutely love that quote. It is having goals without requiring them to rescue you. It is wanting more without treating today as insufficient. That distinction has changed the way I think about success. I still believe in setting bold goals. I still believe in vision, discipline, and surrounding yourself with people who expand what you think is possible. I am not interested in shrinking desire to make life more comfortable. But I no longer believe every goal needs to be held tightly. Some goals need direction, not desperation. There is a difference between deciding where you are going and trying to control exactly how and when it will arrive. One creates movement, the other creates tension. Become the person before you demand the result. The most useful shift I have made is to stop asking only what I want to achieve and pay more attention to the person who would naturally live that life. Not perform as her for a week or borrow her morning routine. Not create an elaborate plan to become her by the end of the quarter. Actually become her. A woman running a successful business is rarely doing everything at once. She has learned what matters and what can wait. She can tolerate the discomfort of slow progress. She does not need every conversation to become a sale or every idea to work immediately. She understands that consistency is often far less exciting than intensity, but infinitely more useful. The women who have created a spacious life have usually become very good at making decisions. She knows what belongs in her life and what does not. She understands that every yes has a cost, and she is willing to disappoint people occasionally rather than continually abandon herself. The woman who is emotionally wealthy does not postpone her entire life until she reaches the next milestone. She notices the people at the table. She makes the trip. She watches the sports carnival. She builds memories alongside the business rather than promising herself she will begin living once the business is successful. This is the part we often miss when we try to achieve everything at once. We focus on acquiring the life before developing the capacity to hold it. And so we choose the income, the freedom, the recognition, the relationship, or the next version of success with the same habits, beliefs, and emotional patterns that made our current life feel too small. Becoming is slower. It is also more sustainable. This matters when you are building a business around a full life. For women building an online business while working full-time, raising children, or navigating a major life transition, self-sabotage can arrive disguised as unrealistic expectations. You decide to build something new and immediately expect yourself to perform like someone who has been doing it for years. You want the business, the income, the confidence, the freedom, and the polished version of yourself who appears to manage it all effortlessly. Preferably by next month, please and thank you. The pressure becomes so great that even small daily actions begin to feel inadequate. One conversation does not feel enough. 1 hour of focused work does not feel like enough. Learning one new skill at a time does not feel fast enough. You either try to do everything or become overwhelmed by the impossibility of it. Neither is particularly useful. Building a business while working full-time is not a test of how much you can squeeze into your life. It is an exercise in becoming more intentional with your time, energy, and attention you already have. That may mean an hour of focused work before the household wakes. It might mean learning to have better conversations rather than trying to have more of them. It may mean accepting that some seasons are for momentum and others are for maintenance. It almost always means releasing the fantasy that you need to master everything before you are allowed to make progress. This is where the online business model has taught me as much about myself as it has about business. There is nowhere to hide from your own patterns for very long. Your need for approval appears. Your fear of being visible appears. Your relationship with money appears. Your impatience appears. So does your tendency to overthink, overwork, or attach your self-worth to results. The business does not create these things. It reveals them. And if you are willing to pay attention, that can become a part of the value. The goal may be to create more income, more flexibility, more choice over your time. But somewhere along the way, you also learn how to keep moving without constant reassurance. You learn to separate your identity from a single result. You learn that one difficult month does not erase your capacity, and one extraordinary month does not complete you. You become steadier. That steadiness is one of the most valuable forms of success I've come to know. The life cannot begin after the goal. I still write things down. I still have goals that stretch me and ideas that I want to create next. I still believe there is enormous power in being clear about where you are going. What has changed is the amount of emotional responsibility I give those goals. I do not want a number to determine whether I am proud of the woman I am becoming. I do not want a future milestone to make the present feel like a lesser version of my life. And I do not want to become so focused on creating freedom that I miss the freedom already available to me. Releasing that emotional weight from your goals is not about becoming less ambitious. It's about becoming less attached to the idea that one particular outcome will finally make you feel the way you want to feel. Do the work. Build the skill. Take the daily actions that belong to the life you are creating. Then give that life enough room to unfold. The 50,000 month arrived after I stopped needing it to tell me I was on the right path. By then, I was busy creating experiences with my boys, building a business around the life I wanted, and becoming more interested in how success felt and how quickly I could prove it. The trophy still came. It simply arrived after I had realized I did not need it. The written blog is on my profile, or it's in my ghost blog, www.blog.brookedavies.com. Feel free to subscribe. They come out every Wednesday at 7 a.m. Queensland time, or you can wait a couple of days and I'll read it to you. See you next week.